Hey guys, it's Robert Gardner with the Robert Gardner Wellness Podcast. Today on the program, I have Hilliard Meeks, a combat veteran and also Hollywood actor and producer. Very excited to get into discussion with him about various assets, talking about potentially personal branding and some of the logistics, trials, and tribulations of dealing with taxes in Hollywood, dealing with acting. So thank you for tuning into the podcast.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Very, very happy to have you on.
Mhm.
So, Hilliard, this is the first time you and I have had a chance to chat, or the first time we've had you on the podcast.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of discussion before we started, some various issues. What do you want to dive into today?
I guess we can first. I actually put the. Oh, sure. My name is Hilliard Joshua Meeks. You can check me out on IMDb. I do have IMDb up under Hilliard Joshua Meeks. You could also look at my Instagram at Hilly Badfeet. That's HILLIE _ Badfeet BADFEET. And yeah, I mean, definitely check out that, or you can talk to me on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page, Polar Black Productions. And also just look me up, Hilliard Joshua Meeks. I'm the only one. So any of those avenues.
So, yeah, topics you want to discuss today, stuff that's kind of grinding on you.
Yeah, I mean, basically honestly just getting people to understand you need to do more than just acting to get into Hollywood nowadays. You should. A lot of people come in under that pre thing that, hey, if I go ahead and I get in here and I get an agent and everything, then that's it. I've got two agents. I've got one in San Diego, actually three, excuse me. I got a commercial agent in LA, one agent in San Diego, and one agent in Hawaii. And I'm like, that's not enough just to sustain work. You got to kind of stretch outside of that and be a creative. And that's where you get a lot of people doing like YouTube and Facebook sketches and all those sorts of things. And so promoting them into the career. Not to knock those things, but I think it's even better if you have somebody who will sit down and write a script full out and then give a nice short film to feature film production and, break in that way. And you start to build yourself up that way. So it really does give a name for yourself. Mm-hmm.
So, because I'm not familiar with Hollywood, I'm not familiar with movie production specifically. I'm a movie fan as far as consuming that content, but um, a lot of times when I deal with other business people, I'm always looking at it from an angle of how do I solve a problem? So Hilliard, we haven't had a conversation previously. 9 times out of 10, any person in business in any way, shape, or form, I just go, Hilliard, what can I help you with? It sounds like you're doing some of that same stuff in Hollywood. You're just saying, okay, yeah, they need an actor, but they need a script. They need somebody who can produce. Being able to wear many hats means you can probably solve problems for a larger number of people in slightly different avenues.
For sure. Take for instance, I have really good cinematographer friends. One of my buddies, Mark De Leon, needed a piece to kind of showcase his cinematography work, and so he had asked me to write a script. Well, because he's like, hey, you're a good script writer. I know you're an actor. Can you write a script for me? Did it, and then he was like, hey, well, guess what? I need you um, to direct it, which was at that time new for me. I had done little smaller projects, but this nothing to the magnitude of what he was asking for. And I jumped in. I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll direct it." Ended up being one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I ended up directing more projects after that. Now, the original short that I did for him, "Breathe Slow Steady Squeeze," is now we're doing our film festival run. Hoping to get into the Olympus Film Festival with that. But it transitioned from doing that film to doing a proof of concept called Cyclone Country, which is it's going to be a TV show that we're hoping to get on some of the streaming networks like Netflix, Amazon, that type of thing. So it grows. The more that you kind of go outside your comfort zone with this business, you'll grow into different aspects, and people will ask you to do a lot more things, and they'll be like, "Oh, he acts too," so they'll also find different parts for you to do as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We've had conversations internally about, say, the podcast, and then also I feel like I'm moving in more towards a consultant space for other massage therapists, people in the health and wellness industry. And
Mhm.
people will kind of ask, like, well, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, doing a podcast was not part of my business plan.
Right.
Like, I work as a massage therapist, but as we continued to expand, it was like, I don't know how to explain it, but the long arc, you couldn't really see the next step. You just kept taking them and then realizing through trial and error what you were actually good at and what you weren't good at. And over time, as I made video, for instance, video was a very new thing for me in, let's see, 2010, 2012, when I started my YouTube channel. I didn't know what I was doing. The videos were horrible. The production value was atrocious. But as we continued to do it, I realized that you had to kind of play to your strengths.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was easy for me to be on camera, not be concerned about it, and then also just continue teaching people. So I really think the problem solving aspect, I'm actually kind of relieved that the process in Hollywood isn't really any different than it is anywhere else.
No, no, not at all. Oh, just to give a heads up, Josh Rob one. This is a live podcast, so how are you doing out there? But yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest issue is people don't understand if you're stagnant and not moving, you're gonna die in whatever you're doing. Basically, it's kind of like physics. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and so for what we do, you just kind of have to become a multi hyphenate and choose a different aspect of the industry to try, like directing, like producing, like act or not acting, but like maybe cinematography, and people will be able to help guide you along more into the industry because of it, because you're offering services they don't have. So it just makes it even better.
Yeah, the problem solving part. Once I understood that in business, first it was just as a massage therapist helping a client with back pain.
Hmm.
And then as I continued reaching out, it was like talking to other entrepreneurs, small business owners, and going, Kathy, what do you need help with? And they're like, man, I don't understand Facebook ads. Do you know anything about it? And it's like, well,
Yeah,
even if I didn't know, I usually knew someone, and being able to establish those connections was helpful for business people. So it was almost like in The Godfather, where it's like people always came to him for favors,
yeah,
but he knew that eventually the favor will be repaid. It was that sort of thing where I realized that was really how business was done. It was still networking, handshakes, getting to know
exactly.
people and solving problems.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, I think you get more out of whatever you're doing for business if you're able to stretch and look at everybody else as an opportunity just to help them, even if it doesn't have to do with, like, say what you do as far as health and wellness, even if it doesn't have to do specifically with health and wellness. Like you said, Facebook ads, not a lot of people know about Facebook ads, like how they work. So you were able to help that person out, and it's invaluable. They're gonna come back and be like, you know what, if I need help with something, I know that I can count on Rob. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah. So, what else is kind of eating at you from Hollywood? Stuff that you want to discuss? We talked about problem
Hmm.
solving, a little bit of networking.
Um, I would have to say IP, which IP is intellectual property versus original content. Most of these big movies nowadays are milking intellectual property, the stuff they already own. Like, say, Ghostbusters, right? You had Ghostbusters that, they had one and two, it had, the original cast, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, all that good stuff. And then, it falls off for a while. And then they come back with, oh, let's just, gender switch it, which wasn't necessarily a bad idea. It wasn't anything anybody really asked for. Like, it didn't really make it grow. And it actually kind of made it step back to where now Ghostbusters 3 is pulling in some of the original cast that had that chemistry. But even still, now you got the next Ghostbusters that is coming out. Excuse me, I think it's Ghostbusters 4, I guess. Now you have the next Ghostbusters. Then they're still milking that same IP rather than having an original content. Where I think if they would have had something that was Ghostbusters like, maybe not exactly the same narrative, but taking that and marrying it to, say, an all-female cast, I think they would have killed it, because there would have been something that no one had seen before. It would have been relative, but it wouldn't have been the same intellectual property over and over again. So, you know.
Yeah, when it comes to IP, I have lots of conversations with people. I filed 2 different trademarks. One was declined, one was approved. So I've dealt with IP related to copyright and trademark primarily, not really so much with patents. And one of the things that I think as an entrepreneur, this is part of my makeup, is I like taking risks. Now, I
Right.
don't want to lose my home or apartment, but beyond that, I'm always looking for the new idea, taking the chance on something that's creative to be able to create something new in the marketplace. I think that the old style of Hollywood production is probably related to that sort of bloat. They have the money, they have the cameras, they have the equipment. I'm looking for the guy with the iPhone and an idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and you're absolutely right on that. I was talking with another actor friend of mine. He's also a writer and producer. His name's Saint Thompson. You guys can look him up. Saint, me and him were talking about that. He's like, the biggest issue that we're having nowadays is Hollywood will only take a gamble on IP that they already own. So you take, for instance, Taika Waititi. He directed Thor. Well, they gave him Thor, because of the fact, like, granted, he's got other big items that are coming out later, but they only had him start with Thor because it was IP they already had money generating off of, and so he had to go ahead and take that route to build himself up, which I applaud Taika Waititi. He did a take of Thor that nobody ever seen before, but the problem is it'd be nice for them to just invest into Taika straight off the back with what he does, like what we do in the shadows, or what we do in the dark, whatever that vampire movie was. If they would have blown that up even more, or whatnot, or if they would have invested in Jojo Rabbit like right off the back, like, he's that brilliant. It's like, okay, his original content would have been great. Let him build that and then bring him into IP he already got. I think that would have been like a little bit better, but that's just kind of how the industry works.
Yeah.
If they already have something that's generating a great deal of money, like, take for instance Star Wars, right? They've made so many Star Wars that even if one tanks, they know the next film will still generate enough to make up the difference. You know what I mean? It's like it could be, a bad showing, and I'm not going to comment on its writing or anything like that, because that's its own thing. But just from a business aspect, even if one show or two shows, 2 movies tank, it still will, it still will generate revenue off the next Star Wars or the next product. Like Mandalorian is killing it right now, so that's just pretty much how it works.
Let's take a quick break. Hey guys, it's Robert Gardner with the Robert Gardner Wellness Podcast. I want you to know about our free trial subscription service. If you're interested in studying mat-based manual therapy, I have the offer for you. It is completely free to get access to 450 hours of my classroom instruction and access to a private Facebook group. Think of it as an online apprenticeship. It is completely free for your first month, $7 a month thereafter. You can unsubscribe at any time. Also, if you're looking for workbooks or DVDs, you can pick all of that up in the store at robertgardnerwellness.com. And I'm back with Hilliard Meeks. Hilliard, can you introduce yourself quickly again and also tell them where they can find you online so they can follow you on
Sure.
social media?
Sure. My name is Hilliard Joshua Meeks. You can find me under Hilliard Joshua Meeks on IMDb. You can also find me on Facebook under Hilliard Joshua Meeks, or my production company called Polar Black Productions. Or you can also check me out on Instagram at Hilly_Badfeet. Hilly spelled HILLIE_BADFEET. I am a actor, writer, and director. I currently have done pieces for Netflix to just my own personal pieces, and currently a person who works on proof of concepts that we can sell to not only local stations but also mainstream Hollywood.
Nice. Yeah, Hilliard, I really wonder. The music industry took a big hit because of Napster and then streaming distribution because they weren't ahead of the curve.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed, usurpers to kind of come in from the outside. I wonder if to a degree that's happening in the movie industry as well. It's just the challenge is an independent movie maker in Austin doesn't necessarily have access to the context to be able to get his film into a theater, but movie production, because of the technology, is probably shifting. Um, I don't know. Do you see bad things coming for Hollywood when it comes to that as the technology continues to increase?
I think actually in this particular case, I think technology is actually helping Hollywood. So when it comes to like an independent, like you said, an independent filmmaker from Austin, there's so many great film festivals that can generate a lot of great press for that filmmaker. And then from there, they can, with Amazon's setup or even getting it into Netflix or certain places, then they can get their film online to where people can actually, pay money for it. And that filmmaker can generate some sort of revenue from it. To add to that, maybe it gets picked up even on a greater scale because of the technology that's going on with film festivals. Most of the film festivals, you don't even actually have to be there to submit. You can submit. You can submit what's called a DCP, a digital cinema package, and that's it. Like you don't even have to be at the physical film festival to participate. So, with that being said, I think the streaming services are actually expanding uh, what filmmakers should do, and even people that aren't necessarily filmmakers, but they make content like YouTube and Facebook and all that. It's just helping people get their name out there faster. I think the only problem that Hollywood is having a problem with is what what content to invest in, like what content to pick up and actually say, hey, this is a great story. Let's push it and we can expand on this. Like, those sorts of things are becoming a problem for Hollywood. And part of it, they had a strike, a writer's strike in Hollywood that they're still dealing with as of current. So that's probably another reason why, like, as we were speaking before about Hollywood milking intellectual property, the IP, that's also part of the problem. So, you know, so right now it's like, okay, for Hollywood, it's like, hey, who do we take the risk with? Is the question, you know?
Oh boy. Technology and distribution and the way that it's changing. It's so interesting to hear it from your perspective in Hollywood, having more access to that marketplace. I see it in other industries because that's more my focus. I
Mhm.
really wonder, I don't know. So, like, for instance, we talk about Facebook and YouTube, like, these are legitimate platforms. Whereas I think 20 years ago, people were like, what? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because now, a kid in his room who's 10, can start his own YouTube channel and start releasing YouTube content. So the barriers of entry are sort of gone. Distribution is increased, which means that exposure is increased. You mean there's no barrier of entry. Anybody can get started if they want to be a rapper, a hip hop artist, a musician, an actor, a filmmaker.
Mhm.
I'm really interested to see what's going to happen, say, in the next 20 years when we're talking about 5G and increased processing capacity with cell phones.
I think we're headed towards it all depends. I think we're headed towards an overload to a certain extent because, like you said, a kid could be sitting at his house and start a YouTube channel and make $26 million. That's ridiculous. That was not even an idea of, like, that you could do back in, when we were kids. One, we didn't have the technology, but two, is just like, can you fathom that? A child just made $26 million, pretty much can retire like now. you know so I mean, the sky's the limit, but I think there, to a certain degree, there is going to be a limit, because of the fact, like I said, we're headed towards overload. So um the goal for Hollywood, the goal for people in general, is just going to be uh better weeding out good content from bad content. That's the biggest issue. Like, take for instance music. Some of the rappers that have passed away as of recent, some of the young rappers, I hadn't even heard of. I believe it's very sad that they passed away, but I didn't know who these people were, you know. But they had a huge following, a huge fan base, and that's where they're at. That's where we're at nowadays. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's just the biggest issue at this point in time, is being able to start to differentiate good content to invest in versus bad content to invest in, and not necessarily taking the wind out of somebody's sails if they have bad content, just helping mold them into good content, that's sellable. So I think
Hmm.
that's the biggest issue.
When you talked about intellectual property, what do you think about people downloading films, Pirate Bay like services?
Mhm.
Do you have any commentary on that as regards intellectual property?
As much as this happens a lot, I mean, you can definitely pirate pretty much anything nowadays,
Yeah.
software to movies and music still. Um, the problem is the quality of what you're downloading.
Yeah.
I've seen stuff that was pirated that I'm like, okay, I would have rather just waited for it to be in, like, I would have rather just watched it on the DVD when it came out, or wait for it to go to the theaters or whatever, and just watch it from there, because I wouldn't have been robbing myself of the experience, the great sound quality, the great picture quality, the screen's not halfway cut off and somebody's walking past it, type of thing. So, I as I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of pirating things, because the reason why people do it is they just don't have the money, and I understand, like that. It's not easy, not having, when you would like to be able to participate like everyone else, but money
Yeah.
is the factor holding you back. However, do I think that these things will replace um, what's going on in the industry? No, because you're just not getting the quality. Period. Like, people are now, like myself, now I'm like a quality snob, where I'm looking for, like, you go into the theater now. I think the screens are pumping over 8K. They're like 12K. So I'm like a snob when it comes to it, because I want to be able to see, picture that feels like I'm standing into the film. And actually, the funny thing is that's where technology. This is, sorry for a slight tangent. That's where technology is headed. We're going to be able to start watching movies, I believe, in the not too distant future, that take place around us.
Yeah.
So you're the viewer just sitting in the middle of the room, and the whole film's taking place around you. So, but yeah.
Yeah, intellectual property. I was of an age in college when I saw Napster and I saw digital distribution take hold,
Mhm.
and everybody was, of course, freaking out about it. And I have workbooks and DVDs I wrote related to the manual therapy I teach, Thai massage, and we were having some of those materials listed on Amazon. And a guy I was working with was like, "Well, the problem with your stuff is that it's digital." And I said, "Why is that a problem?" He's like, "Well, people are going to go to the Pirate Bay and steal this." And I was like, "And make me the Metallica of body workers?" Like, I'm not worried about, listen, somebody who's in Oklahoma who's broke enough could write me an email and I'd go, "Oh, hey man, here, listen, here's a coupon code. I'll just give you a free copy."
Right.
It doesn't. in other words, I made stuff to get it to people, not
Mhm.
to like charge an arm and a leg and create like a barrier of entry. Like I made it digital because I wanted distribution. I mean, I want to maintain copyright on my stuff because I wrote it, but I'm very soft in regards to how I deal with that because in the end, it's about building more fans. It's about
You're right.
connecting with people, getting them information. And in fact, my whole business was built off of the first workbook that I give away for free for an email address and built an email list. That was really how I got my feet wet with like digital distribution, and I understood what a powerful force the internet was when it came to business. Massage wasn't something you could scale, but a
Right.
digital workbook, it was like, where is that? Like, uh, where in Croatia did they download that?
Right. Right. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the internet and technology is giving people a voice and a platform and helping educate people, or like you said, from long distances. You have knowledge that somebody can use in a country, well, you know, thousands of miles away. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to communicate and get that out there is the whole point. I think I think we kind of take it for granted, especially with social media and all these other things. That here's the portion of having all this technology that hinders us is certain people gain pedestals that should not have a pedestal. Like, you know, certain people's commentary on things should not be out there because it's destructive. It's not helping anyone. It's just you where you get like the internet trolls and things of that nature. It's like, okay, did you help whoever you're commenting on excel in what they're doing, or are you just taking the wind out from their sails? And why would you do that? Like, that just doesn't make sense. So
Oh, yeah. Like I'm fortunate that I've gotten to a level of success where I have haters and trolls, and I cannot any longer like flip into that mentality.
yeah.
It's like students I work with will start producing video because I encourage them to make video content to promote themselves. And sometimes the production value is not very good, but I keep my original YouTube video up on my channel because I want people to go see how bad it was. Like, this is the message. I didn't start
Mhm.
with a podcast. I didn't start with a good camera. I started where I was, and you continue to grow. Like, if anything, I always encourage them. I'm like, great video. Now make 100 more.
Right. Right. And get better at it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only way that you're going to get better at it. And I think that's the only problem with like I said, our technology, being able to have all the social media and things of that nature. um, as you're getting started, there will be a lot of people who try to take the wind out of your sails, and you just got to be able to push through it and say, you know what, I have got a goal. I know this is where I'm at right now, but I'm going to get to the other side, or I'm going to grow. And that's great that you were able to defeat the haters online. It's just a weird situation to be in. I think for me, like you said, I grew up in the time of Napster and all that stuff, and social media wasn't really there. And then nowadays, people are, you know what I mean? They're just, it's so, you're inundated with commentary from people that probably shouldn't comment on anything. So,
Well, the other part I've noticed is, let's say you have a 10-minute video, they
Mhm.
might see a little clip at the beginning, make some comments, but they don't even watch the whole thing. There's no
Right.
context for the audience. So if you've got a YouTube video and it's got a title, that title may change their frame of reference for what they're viewing, and it's not what they thought they were getting. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of factors, and I don't know. Sometimes negative comments, I just don't say anything. Sometimes I kind of goad them into commenting more because I want YouTube's algorithm to pick it up and show it to more people who will complain to show it to more people.
There you go.
Yeah.
I saw our counter go down. I don't know what's there.
Yeah, we can take just a quick commercial break. Hey guys, it's Robert with the Robert Gardner Wellness Podcast. Listen, if you're enjoying our conversation, I teach just as much about business and social media marketing as I do in massage and body work. There's an entire assortment of workbooks, DVDs on my website, in addition to our free trial subscription service for your first month. It is $7 a month thereafter, but there are over 450 hours of my classroom instruction available. I go over social media marketing, brand building, website, search engine optimization, and a host of factors to be able to help you and your business thrive. You have nothing to lose. You can unsubscribe at any time, and you can find all of those materials at robertgardnerwellness.com. Hey guys, I'm back with Hilliard Meeks. Hilliard, can you tell them where they can find you again?
Yes, you can find me at on IMDb as Hilliard Joshua Meeks, or you can find me on Facebook as Hilliard Joshua Meeks, or my production company that is Polar Black Productions. You can find that online or on Facebook. One other place you can find me is Instagram under Hilly_badfeet. Hilly spelled HILLIE_badfeet BADFEET.
So, Hilliard, when we talk about YouTube, Facebook, social media, this is something that's really interesting to me. I use social media heavily in my business. What is Hollywood's response to TikTok? What is their
Uh,
response to Instagram, YouTube, other social media platforms?
it's super inviting, to tell you the truth. This is how Hollywood is starting to differentiate new stars. In fact, I'll tell you right now, like certain agencies and certain places won't even pick you up unless you have a huge following already. So this goes back to creating content. It's important. You got to be a multi hyphenate. You got to create content. You got to do things that aren't just related to acting, because of the fact that people are gauging you on how many people are watching. So and that's crazy. It's never been a thing before. Before it was just based off of your own talent and merit, and did you audition for this part and get it or get in, and so forth and so on. Nowadays you need to build a social media platform almost first or concurrent to becoming an actor or director, even, or even a popular producer or cinematographer. I know cinematographers, they got a huge following just because they've developed a brand on social media that people are watching, people are intrigued by, like how they get the shots and the things that they do. So it really works for every aspect of the industry.
I find it so interesting to think about someone getting a leg up because they have a TikTok profile.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's proof of concept and the things I discuss, but I just can't imagine sitting in Hollywood at a big, executive suite or whatever with a bunch of guys around. In my head, they're in suits, smoking cigars, talking about my TikTok channel. It's like it's such a weird like construct when I see 15-year-old girls doing little dances on TikTok to various songs. Like social media is so at this stage, it's fun.
Right.
I really encourage people, massage therapists specifically, because I work with them. They're like, "Why? I don't know what to produce." And I go, "Listen, go have fun, play. Don't just make this is your levator scapula, and this is where its an origin and insertion is, and dry content. Make fun content that you think is interesting, and just test the audience. The
Yeah.
audience will tell you what they like based on their views."
There's so many things that go on in the daily in the lives of any industry, like you're doing here with health and wellness. Um, just cool stories, maybe like that. I think uplifting stories is a great way for people uh, to get content out there and to make themselves known. Is because everybody likes an uplifting story, even if it's not your own uplifting story, but it's within the same industry. I
Yeah.
think that's even great that you're giving notice to these good stories, because there's a ton of bad news out there nowadays.
Yeah.
Might as well have some good news.
Yeah.
So
The
um,
production component, that concept, I'll see people literally, they will complain about what's on social media.
mhm.
It's like, it's just trash. And I go, social media is you.
Yeah.
You are the news. Go make better. Go make better news.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly the point. It's like if you don't like the way social media is working, people often complain but never really get up off the couch to fix it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of part of my whole deal too. I have an app company that we're working on stuff trying to create a piece of social media that will help folks um, get out and experience more and whatnot. I can't go into detail too much about it, but just to throw that out there, that's it. You see an issue like we often do, try to fix it. Try to do something positive rather than tear it down. Or like my wife likes to tell me, speak life into things. You know what I mean? Like rather than just talk down about it, do something that promotes life into it rather than destructiveness. So
I love, I've noticed this over time as I moved more towards like a consultant space. Somebody could come to me and say, hey, I've got this idea. I've got a $10,000 ad budget. I'm like, boring.
mm-hmm.
And they come to me and they say, hey, I'm broke. I live in my mom's basement, but I got an idea. And I'm like, ooh, now it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about that youthful exuberance and enthusiasm that I'm hopelessly drawn to. I would do work for you, Hilliard, just because you have a dream. And you say, Robert, I need some advice. And I go, cool. Do you need me to fly out to LA for a week? What's going on? Like, I love maybe the underdog.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love like innovative ideas with like a perception of like limited resources.
Yeah, and that's the good thing is going back to technology, even with the limited resources that are out there that you may have as far as your own personal financial limited resources, with the social media, with things like YouTube and content, streaming sites, you can grow and become amazing with nothing, absolutely nothing. You could have 2 cents in your bank account one week, and with the right content, you can be miles ahead financially, and which is good. But it's because where you can tell who's good at it is the people that absolutely love their idea and love what they do. They may not have a dime to start off with, but they have an idea that they love and they have so much energy into it that energy is infectious and people will catch on and move forward. So
I teach a very specific form of massage and body work to my students, and my students will start asking about business and like, well, what do I do? And I go, hold on, what do you want to do? Because if you don't want to do what I teach, one, go study with someone else. Like, you have to do what you're obsessed with. And I think part of the reason I approach it that way is I know that they're going to put in extra hours when they love it.
oh yeah.
I know that musician is going to go towards the 20th take because they have to tweak those notes and deliver the bass line in a certain way just because it's got to be perfect because they love it, not because it's just a job.
Exactly, and that's how I feel about creating content and things that I do. Is one of those things that I will spend the extra hours. The days that I get no sleep, that's okay, because I know eventually it'll catch on to where I won't even think about the days that I didn't sleep. I'm just enjoying that period of time that everything is finally taken off. So, and I think that's where it comes down to with a lot of people. They live with a lot of fear that their idea isn't good enough, or what they're doing at current isn't good enough. So they almost shoot themselves down when they should be promoting themselves up to keep moving forward. And that'll give them the energy, to do well beyond the work hours of what they enjoy. It's artistry. That's exactly what it is. Mastering everything from body work to making a film. It's artistry, and you got to really take pride in that. So
All of the greatest creators, artists, and poets of all time were just people like us.
exactly.
Just as flawed and just as likely to sleep till noon.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's so funny how ideas become infectious. Like I'll come up with an idea and I'll write it down and I'll sit down with my group and we'll talk about it, and they're seeing more to my idea than I originally saw. And then it becomes one of those things, well, we have to do this right now. So I think that's
Yeah.
another thing I think that could help out. I don't know how it works in your industry, but having a collective of people that are working towards the same goal, hear your ideas and help
Yeah.
you invest in your ideas, even without investing necessarily money. Time is just as somebody investing
Yeah.
time into your idea is just as valuable.
That's
And
a huge issue in my industry specifically. I think massage therapists who make their income from seeing clients,
mm,
they'll sort of complain about big box chains, large corporate entities that hire massage therapists, but they're not forming strategic alliances to build.
mhm.
And again, it's not in regards to money, it's in regards to, I mean, literally, you take 5 massage therapists in a city. One's got a camera, knows how to use the camera, one's got some editing software, the other one has a fairly active YouTube channel. Like, why are they not working together to like cross promote? A
Exactly.
lot of times they get into a sense of like, well, it's competition. Like, I don't want to compete, for clients. And I go, guys, like, there's 1.6 million people in the greater Austin area. I can't work on all of them. Like, 'cause like you only need like 100 regular clients. That's it.
That's
Once you
it.
got those, like you're done. Like you just keep, just keep building. So I think that sort of collaboration is something I deal with regularly. I have lots of phone calls that sound like this podcast with colleagues in various cities and states where I'm bouncing ideas off of them because I get completely harebrained ideas. Like what people don't understand is they're like, oh, Robert's a success. He's done all this. And it's like, I'm just standing on a mountain of errors. Like I've just continued to, test and retest and go where the low hanging fruit was instead of fighting to build a ladder to get to the top immediately.
Right. And I mean that's the same thing with me. Not every idea I've came up with was a winner. It was like, I thought it was cool, and honestly, it just didn't develop the right way. But at the same time, coming up with a new idea or coming up with the next thing and having other people work with me on it, that's the thing. You don't shoot yourself in the foot by thinking just because you collaborate with somebody on a particular project that it won't bear good fruit for you. It will. You're helping somebody who needed you, and eventually that person can also maybe bring you into what they're doing, and you'll build together. But that's the thing. If everybody sits around and says, "Oh, no one's going to like," if I invest in somebody's time, they're not going to invest in my time. If you live with that mentality, then no one's going to get. You're not going to get farther.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, colleagues locally, if they come to me and say, "Hey, listen, I need, help with video," I'm like, "Cool. What do you want me to do? I can run the camera." They're completely taken aback that I would allow them to use my equipment that I've purchased and act as their camera person to produce better video, mind you, than I sometimes release myself because I know what people want to see. And
right.
they're completely taken aback by that. And they're what, like, isn't he worried about competition? And I'm like, no,
Exactly.
like, I'm not. I can only work on so many Hilliards. So,
Ex-
like right now, are you in LA?
I'm out in Marietta, which is
Marietta?
Southside Riverside County, right above San Diego, but on the backside. I
Okay.
could get to LA really quickly.
Yeah. So essentially, what people don't understand is like we do the podcast. I have no idea what Hilliard says to me when we get off air, and he's like, "Hey, I got this guy. I think he should be on your podcast." And
Hmm.
you're making connections. I'm still in like my garage. Like, I mean, it's like the world is increasingly a small place. I think if you approach any business from a problem solving attitude, I think a lot more comes of that. People are always interested in talking about themselves, giving the person a chance to say, hey, do you have any problems I can help you with? Is there anything I can do for you? Completely opens the door, because I think so many people are approaching people in Hollywood. Like if I run into Leo DiCaprio is probably concerned that I'm going to ask him for something.
Right.
Not that I'm
And
going to go, Leo, listen, can I do anything for you? How many times does he hear that?
he'd
Probably
be
not as often.
blown away. He would be blown away. Anybody in Hollywood would, because you're exactly right. People are really kind of trying to figure out what they can get from you, rather than, or what help do you need? Like, what problems are you facing? So, yeah, that's huge. I mean, and it actually shows, I think, a deeper care of people when you approach them with what can I help you with first, rather than what can I get with you,
Yeah.
get from you, later. So I think that's a better way to look at it.
Relationship building. It's very
Mhm.
important in my industry specifically that I have a good, strong bond with clients and students, emotional rapport. I think it also carries off into other industries. You can be a steel manufacturer and you still have to be able to shake people's hands and talk to people in China and introduce them to what you do and talk about
Mhm.
your product or service and how you can help them. There's so much of maybe emotional intelligence that goes along with it
Yeah.
that is a little bit harder to, I think, quantify.
Yeah. I mean, it, I really don't have a way to place a button on it, but it's just honestly, for anybody that is interested in building themselves up. My dog wants to go outside. Anybody who wants to build themselves up, they have to really take a step out there and not worry about what it's going to mean for themselves at first, but what it means for the other people that really do need the help. You will get to where you're going eventually, but you have to be able to understand how to invest in other people, because some of those other people will also invest in you. So, yeah. Mhm.
We'll take just a quick break. We'll be right back with Hilliard Meeks.
I'm going to open the door for my dog to go outside. I'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Robert Gardner with the Robert Gardner Wellness Podcast. If you are looking for training materials, manual therapy, Thai massage, and you want to study with one of the great leaders in the industry, come on board. Listen, our subscription service is completely free for your first month. It is $7 a month. Thereafter, you can unsubscribe at any time. I provide more value than any other educator in the massage industry and have no plans on stopping. It is $7 a month, and you can access right now over 450 hours of my classroom instruction, in addition to informational social media marketing and business building. That vault has been a amazing resource, brand builder for me to be able to draw students into what I'm teaching, trying to change the massage industry from the inside. If you're also looking for workbooks or DVDs, you can find those and the subscription service all at robertgardnerwellness.com in the store.
Hey y'all, it's Trent Knox, podcast producer for the Robert Gardner Wellness Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, and all of the live streaming platforms. If you're interested in helping us produce these live streams, you can make a small contribution by going to the link down below to continue these amazing productions. And then if you would like to support our podcast version of this, the audio version, you can go to anchor.fm/rgwellness/support. For as little as $1 a month, you can help promote that audio version of the podcast. But yeah, thank you very much. As Robert said, you can check out the classes, the workbooks, and the subscription all at rgwellness.store. Okay, back to Robert and Hilliard in the studio.
And I'm back with Hilliard Meeks. Hilliard, can you introduce yourself again and tell them where they can find you?
Yes, my name is Hilliard Joshua Meeks. You can find me on IMDb under Hilliard Joshua Meeks, or you can find me on Facebook under Hilliard Joshua Meeks, or my production company, Polar Black Productions. Also on Instagram as Hilly_Badfeet, That is HILLIE_BADFEET.
Nice. So as you were going on about helping people, problem solving, in this last little segment here, is there anything else that's eating at you that you really want to discuss?
Sure. The other things that kind of affect industries, not even just my own, but it's when you have like local government kind of get in the way of
Uh,
progress. Um, Out here in California, we have what's called AB 5, Assembly Bill 5, which basically is shutting down freelance work, which in what we do in my industry is a lot of. We have a lot of people that are freelancers to a certain degree. Like editors don't stay on just one project. They'll go and they'll work on several different movie house projects or whatnot, or production company projects. Same thing with producers, directors, and so forth and so on. So, to a certain degree, there's a great deal of freelancers all in Hollywood, in the film industry, and it's kind of taking away this assembly bill. What it does is, it instead of being a freelancer, it's asking you to either be an employee of the company that's hiring you, or be a sole proprietorship or a business. And it just doesn't really work for everyone. It makes sense. It makes sense, like, for, say, if you're doing Uber or Lyft or something like that, it makes sense to that point, to where it's like, hey, you're expending a great deal of your vehicle, and a lot of hours and stuff like that to Uber. So you should just be an employee of the company at that point, with health benefits and other things that help you circumvent costs that you'd normally have to pay for. But for what we do, a lot of folks that are creatives, it doesn't help. Like, if you're a photojournalist, you shouldn't have to be an employee of whatever magazine or publisher that you're working for. If you enjoy being a freelance photojournalist, you should be able to make the choice for yourself. And at this point, and of course it's California. At this point, um, it's difficult because they feel as if we can't make our own choice. Like, if I'm in a bad situation, I'm not going to stay in a bad situation. As a freelancer, I'm going to change my situation. I'm going to either go somewhere else and be an employee, or I'm going to continue freelance, but in a different way, if that were my only means of income. So I think that's what we run out here is local government getting in the way of what we do to make income. So
the joys of taxes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing as I worked and continue to work, entrepreneurially, to see how tax structures and things affect business. It's, of course, more a concern as my business grows in various ways, because there's a lot of pressure. When I talk to therapists who work for someone else, like a big corporate box chain, they have taxes taken out of their check. It's like very easy for them to deal with their taxes. Man, it's a constant juggle between like creativity and money to invest, and like how do you continue building the business and deal with staff. I side with small business owners.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a small business, I think. But when it comes down to those that like the flexibility, I think freelance kind of works, for them. Just kind of having folks get in that particular space and saying, hey, you can't be a freelancer anymore, is kind of taking away that freedom. And or not necessarily, well, it does take away the freedom, because they won't allow you to. Like, the companies um, aren't hiring back certain freelancers that they had before. So it gets tough. It gets tough, and I understand that the whole purpose is to protect people, but I think we also have to look at the fact that people can make, grown adults can make decisions on what they need to do for themselves, rather than having the local government tell them what they need for themselves. So that's my take on it.
I'm a big fan of empowering small business owners. I'm also a big fan of simplifying the tax code, which I know accountants might not necessarily be in favor of. I don't even understand why it has to be so complex. To me, it's like talking about the health industry and insurance billing. Like, why does it have to be so complex? And it's like, well, it has to be so complex because we need an intermediary to secure their position to make it so complicated that the average person can't do it themselves.
Mhm.
It's a weird situation. I'm a generally a fan of um, small business and like less regulation. A lot of people don't like that stance, but like for massage, for instance, each state has its own individual laws.
Mhm.
California is actually more confusing to me. It might be regulated county to county. I'm not exactly sure about that. So anytime I go into another state to teach, there can be a completely different arbitrary set of rules where it's like I have to go read state law, figure out what's going on in that state. Do I have to get my curriculum passed and approved? It's like
Mhm.
just to go into Mississippi, as if Mississippi doesn't have enough problems already. It's like, come on, guys. Like it's an imaginary border. I'm doing massage here. Like
Right.
human anatomy and physiology does not change that much across state lines.
Oh man.
It's a big reason why I teach online is because I don't have to deal with all of that.
Right, and I mean, and that's great to be able. I think that's brilliant that you decided to use more of the online base to do so, because at least now you're able to service people over greater distances and past the BS of some of their own local governments. But that's, I mean, that's completely it. Sometimes these local governments just get in the way. We don't, we're overstepping our boundaries. And as far as the tax code is concerned, I think it's simple. Like you said, if you're not making a whole great deal of money, then why are you being overtaxed? It shouldn't be, especially if you're a small business or a freelancer. I think it should just be kind of simple rather than looking at you as just a small business. Let's go ahead and say, hey, look, if you make under 150K a year, we're not going to heavily tax you. You're running your own business. You're doing things that people don't necessarily do, or even freelancers. If you're making under 150K, that's nothing in the state of California. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why do you need to be overtaxed when you're stepping into the
Ah,
American dream? You
yeah.
know?
See, and that's where, from a small business owner standpoint, that's the thing. Like, I don't like seeing people um, having increasing obstacles and barriers of entry that prevent them from working for themselves.
Exactly.
Small business owners create new industries, create new jobs, do things that are more competitive and game changing, eventually hire and employ other people. Lots of that money gets moved around. My business, for as much as it has grown, it's like nearly operates at a loss. My bills get paid, but all the money just gets reinvested back in the business until we get to a certain stage where we don't do that anymore, or at
Right.
least that's the hope. Hopefully, I will not die in poverty.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're enjoying life and doing what you're doing, that's the whole. That is definitely the crux of it. And like you said, you just having local government get in the way of enjoying your life, doing what you want to do, makes it so much difficult. So yeah, that's basically. I guess that's been the main thing that's been plaguing me nowadays. As I'm still, to give AB5 some credit, I'm actually still trying to make sure I'm not missing anything in the rhetoric, um, because of course it's all the legal mumbo jumbo that you have to sift through to figure out, what exactly can you get away with under AB5 and what you can't. So, or what other hoops or loops that you haven't found that make AB5 workable that you can't. And so far, I haven't found anything that makes sense. So that makes it difficult. Um,
Better call Saul. It's always a lawyer. Like having a good lawyer as a friend is an asset, man.
oh yeah, I'm learning more about that like as we go along. I do have a lawyer on retainer, but it's not necessarily an entertainment lawyer. So now I'm looking into that now, and it's just there's a lot. I didn't
Oh
realize
yeah.
I didn't realize when you're first getting into this sort of thing, you don't really think about lawyers. Like that's the last thing that's on your mind. And mainly because whenever you think about lawyers, you're thinking about scary court cases and all these other things that don't necessarily have to do with what you're dealing with. And so now that that's a reality for me, the lawyers are pinnacle. Like I didn't even realize how much a lawyer is as important as anything else in your business, or whatever you're working on as a creative. Have a lawyer on retainer. So
Yep, I learned about intellectual property the hard way. Having a lawyer teach me about it was a little frustrating because you could tell he didn't want to he didn't want to sit down for hours and try to school me on copyright and patent and trademark law and how it worked exactly. But he had to be able to educate me about enough of it so that I understood the game and then go, holy moly, like intellectual property law and entertainment law and real estate law and marriage and divorce law and is like all different. like
yeah.
like in other words, you could talk to him about intellectual property and he has no idea about these other areas.
Exactly.
Like they
Because
have
it's
to
so
specialize.
Yeah, because each niche of law is so intricate and huge.
Yeah.
There's not enough. There's not. I don't think there's enough bandwidth for anybody in law to try to study or know them all. So yeah, it's nuts. It is really. But it's a reality that you have to deal with if you're, especially sole proprietorship or freelance or any portion of your own business making. You gotta have a lawyer on retainer. That's just kind of par for the course. So, but yeah. Other than that, I'm working on some proof of concepts that are going to be pretty cool. Finished one. It's called Cyclone Country. So guys, keep a lookout for that. That will not only be on the proof of concept will not only go through the film festival circuit, but it'll also eventually be online to check out not only through Polar Black Productions but QF Media, and so we're gonna have a good time with that. And then we have a local show that we're hoping expands to other places. Would like to go into it, but I got so much going on it right now. Again, IP. Can't jump off into it, but it'll have to. But I will let you know. It'll help couples get out more. Put it that way. So keep a lookout for that.
How do you manage juggling so many projects? How do you keep your mind straight?
Calendars, man. Honestly, calendars and deadlines. I mean, serious, because the people that I work with, we have enough content to make for the next 3 years, which is ridiculous. It's a lot. So, with that being said, we have to make calendar a good baseline of a calendar to let us navigate these productions without pulling out any hair. As you can see, I have none. So I have to be very careful with that and making deadlines that work for everyone, that don't overstress folks, and that if there's any sort of thing that pops up in the middle of it, say I book a gig, or say um, somebody else has a smaller project that we can fit in there, that's fun to do. Again, helping others, making sure that timeline has the leeway and the freedom to do so is important. So basically doing that, just organizing, sit down with a calendar, give yourself a deadline that makes sense. That's not gonna stress you or your crew out or the people that are helping you out. That's paramount. Paramount all the way, you know? So I guess a lot of people don't even think about that when they first start making production schedules. Uh, and me being a person who likes to do productions by the numbers, from pre-production to principal photography to post-production, for me, taking all the time to do the steps correctly, that'll help your business grow. Not necessarily, oh, we can push this through there and get it done like real quick. It's going to reflect in the quality of what you're doing. So um,
Yeah, there's this thing about documenting what you're doing and then the creation process and crafting stuff that's perfect. Josh Terry is a friend of mine, a musician, and I have lots of conversations with him because he's very fixated at times on making something that's perfect. And in the age of like music distribution and a 15-second clip on TikTok, I go, per- perfect ain't what it used to be. It's like, so for me, writing workbooks is a very different process than, teaching a class that I know is being recorded and distributed in some form. So to me, it's kind of like the difference between making an album and playing jazz at a concert. Like
Right.
they're two kind of different facets of the same art form.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a good way to differentiate. Like you said, like doing a 15-second clip on TikTok is relatively small and non-intrusive to your production schedule. Whereas maybe having a whole full 3-minute song, um, I would understand taking more time on that because you want all the notes and things to come out just perfect. It could be your next hit. Um, but at the same time, you gotta place a deadline. You gotta get from point A to point B, rather than just being stuck. Like, oh, this can go on. Because I mean, honestly, if you did certain things that way, a production for me would take forever. You know what I mean? Like, because I would want every little specific aspect to be perfect. Whereas giving myself a reasonable time schedule and saying, okay, this is where I gotta get from here to here, and I have to move on to the next step, is probably the best thing, especially when it comes down to paperwork. Because unfortunately, for film productions, the good majority of pre and post production is paperwork. So,
Yeah,
so
paperwork. Exactly why you went to Hollywood. I want to do mountains of paperwork.
honestly, you could navigate Hollywood just by having a business degree. Like, I kid you not. If you are interested in being around that scene, but yet you still want to maintain the business, like you're good at business and the business aspects. Honestly, it's pretty much everything is almost all administrative. It's budgets, it's filling out paperwork, it's knowing what insurance you have, it's like you said, the intellectual property and making sure you have the right copyright, patent, whatever, what have you. Yeah, it's all paperwork from pre to post. Principal photography, all that stuff in the middle. There's a little bit of paperwork that goes along with it, like making sure people get paid and things go to payroll. But other than that, yeah, it's paperwork. So,
And that's where I go delegate. Like
exactly.
I can only deal with so much, and I continue to test my edges and parameters, but paperwork is not the thing that I enjoy the most. And I'm like, okay, that's what you outsource. If you're a massage therapist and you don't like doing laundry, it's time
Mhm.
to hire a laundry service. There's no reason
Exactly.
for you to do a $15 an hour job. You can give that to somebody else who'd be just happy to take that off your plate.
Mhm. And that's you're absolutely right. I think that's something that I'm still learning more of is how much I need to delegate. Um, Building an organization, I guess you could say, is almost another aspect of it because that's what happens with your production team. You can basically build a miniature organization where everybody has their thing, their lane, and they can take care of all those little administrative things on their end in that lane. That's always been my difficulty because I'm like, I want to touch everything. I want to be in in every aspect of it, and I have to tell myself, nope, that's not your lane. You need to take a step back.
No, I think I got rid of the micromanaging aspect just because I took on so much I could never do it. It's not physically possible for me to have my fingers and all of that at the same time. Increasingly, as I step back towards management, it's just understanding enough to know how the Facebook ads work while
Yeah,
having somebody handle that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And vetting whoever you know that like you knew your Facebook ad guy right off the bat. Taking your time and building those relationships, like you had mentioned before, and finding those people that are in those niches is paramount because they'll save you so much time. In the long run, saving time is also going to save you money on certain things. So, just take your time, delegate, and find make those relationships to make your business better. So
Cool. Well, I think we're up for time today. Hilliard, I'd love to have you on the program again in the future. If there are specific topics that you want to talk about, please let me know. I'd be happy to have you on again and kind of continue this ongoing connection conversation. It was really great to chat with you. Can you
oh,
tell
thank you.
people where they can find you again?
Sure. Again, check on IMDb for Hilliard Joshua Meeks. Also look on Facebook for Hilliard Joshua Meeks, or Polar Black Productions, which is also on Facebook. And also IG, you can look for me as Hilly Badfeet, Hilly_Badfeet, which is HILLIE_BADFEET.
Nice. So Hilliard, thank you so much for being on the program. I really appreciate it. It was great to chat with you, and good
Thank you
luck
for
with
having me.
everything. And again, if I can do anything for you, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Robert Gardner Wellness Podcast. Again, if you want to pick up workbooks, DVDs, manual therapy, educational materials, you can do that at robertgardnerwellness.com in the store. Don't forget to check out that free trial for your first month on the subscription service. After that, it's $7 a month. You can unsubscribe at any time. Again, you can check it all out at robertgardnerwellness.com in the store. And classes are coming up in Austin, in Chicago, and also in Fort Smith, Arkansas. If you want to take a class with me in person, you can also find those in the store. Guys, if you want to follow me on any platform you are on, I am obsessive about Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. I am all over social media, including Twitter. If you want to say hello, you can find me under various screen names, but you can find that information on my website and just for searching me on whatever platforms you use.